Okay, I'm going to play a tune. It's by Benny Klein. I was looking at talking to Benny Klein. She's based in the USA. We were going to do the time difference thing, but in the end, the collaborator for this particular tune is an local artist called Tartie, and I'll be speaking to them after this particular song. It's the Benny Klein. We'll probably talk about it in a few moments' time, but she's a broadcaster amongst many other things in the USA. I think the radio station is called WPKN, and it's in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So interesting stuff. She's a poet. Here's the tune they've put together, and it's called Orchard. In these trees. And this features local performer Tartie. So check it out, folks.
Let all the fruits fall down, moving through the orchard. You stroll through the grove. Won't you leave this town?
Okay, folks. Well, that was the tune. Well, yeah, it's written by Benny Klein. It's called Orchard, featuring a Melbourne artist, Tartie. And on the line right now, I have Tartie. So welcome to Music Matters and 3CR.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Look, it's the joy of doing this gig, basically, for me, because obviously I've got access to messages that come through the music coordinator, and I have to delve into so many subject titles to see whether I'm going to read the message at all. That's the truth. And I was very glad that this one came along by someone who supplies me a lot of tunes by international artists. And then it turned out to be, we tried to get to talk to Benny today, which would have been quite exciting, even maybe both of you on the line in different time zones. But nevertheless, we settled for the easiest one, and I didn't know that you were based in Melbourne, so that made it even more easier. So there.
Yeah, definitely.
So, look, as a singer-songwriter, you've been around for a little few years doing stuff. You put your stuff on Bandcamp, which is gets bonus points here at Music Matters, of course, and it's all good for you. But how did you find out about this artist, Benny Klein?
So Benny is actually, she has created a project called In These Trees, and but this is before I met her over the internet, before this project came about. And I sent my song Winter's Girl, which is I released that in 2019, and I sent that to her. I liked her music program that she ran there called A Miniature World on WPKN, and so I thought, maybe she'll play it. And anyway, she did. She liked it, and she played it, and she emailed me back, and we started a bit of a friendship via email, and she played it a few times. She was very generous. And then she said, I have a song, and I like your voice, and I want you to sing it. And it was one of her songs that she'd written. It was, she said, she was a poet, so she started writing these poems, and she got a local artist to put music to it, and it was a guy singing, and she wanted a woman to sing it, or a girl's voice. And so we had a go at that. It still didn't really sit properly. And then she said, I've got these lyrics it was called Orchard Song at that point. And she said, would you put some music to it? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll have a go. And I loved the lyrics. And, I just can't believe she trusted me with her beautiful words. And I was able to put music to it. And that's how Orchard came about. So we were collaborating from opposite sides of the world, and then she enlisted the help of the brilliant producer David Barron, who's in Upper New York State. I think that's where he's located. And the three of us collaborated across the pandemic, across time zones, and to create Orchard.
So she was staying up late, and you were getting up early.
Yes, or vice versa.
Well, correct.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's it's excellent, and so yeah, looking at collaborations, with an exclamation mark. It's amazing how they work out and everything, and it's a seasonal. I mean, there's metaphors in there, but it's a seasonal song, and so it worked out really well that I could talk to you today because of the
Yeah.
season that we're in. But obviously, it's the opposite, northern southern hemisphere.
Yes.
It's always
Yes.
an incredible fascination that. I think it's much more people living in the southern hemisphere want to believe they're in the northern hemisphere. I think
Yes. I think so.
it's a big problem. I think anyway. There you go. Well, yeah. So I guess there's. Did you have an affinity with her particular subject matter of of her project? Because I know I mentioned at the beginning that she's very influenced by the radical politics of the 1960s, and I mentioned the music documentary Summer of Soul. It's a music documentary, but it's actually a very intense political documentary because, doing a free festival in Harlem over a few weeks in the summer of, I think it was July, an extraordinary event. Logistical, it's just amazing. Having white policemen in amongst, you could probably count how many white faces are in that crowd. It was just extraordinary. But I don't know, I mean, have you had any inkling of that as a reference point for your own music making?
So I actually don't know the documentary you're talking about, and I really want to watch it now.
Yep, do it.
It sounds amazing. So I guess my own music is not so much soul-based, but I do love, obviously, I'm a big fan of soul music, and I've spent a lot of time in the States and been to lots of different concerts, and I spent time in Detroit. I recorded in Detroit. I've been to the South. I spent time in Cleveland, which is not so soul, but but there was a bit of a music scene there, and obviously New York, where there's a lot of soul music going on. So I guess it's not a definitive kind of influence for my own music, but I definitely appreciate the genre, and I do want to learn a bit more about the 60s and what was happening in that time, because Binny's work was inspired by her stories from that time. So I really, that's something that I want to kind of delve further into. So, but yeah, I guess it does. A few of those genres might influence my music, but they're not, key influences.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's just the way what you're going to choose your words, and how you're going to sing them. I mean, obviously we've got a massive project here in Melbourne called Women of Soul. Chelsea Wilson's put that together, so there's some extraordinary singers in that. But yeah, it's about the storytelling, and then you've got the whole climate change aspect, and which I guess that song that you've done covers it. So there's plenty of opportunity to still put that message out, because we've still got to work hard on that one. It seems.
Yeah, I think especially now in Australia, it's getting it's getting more crucial.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah. As
the time passes, and that's what I'm definitely not afraid to be a bit political in some of my songs. Not so much political, but to address an issue that I feel needs to be addressed. I'm definitely, and that was another really clever part of Binny's words, were that they also, it can be applied to, this urgency about climate change.
Yeah, totally. But, I guess that we shouldn't shy away, certainly here at 3CR. I mean, saying anything, questioning anything, you are being political. And I guess the word political has been demonised deliberately. It's okay for a politician to be a politician. That's all wonderful, isn't it? But when someone questions what they're doing and what their mates are doing, we get blamed for being political. I love that sort of contradiction.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Well, maybe I'll say, yes, I'm proudly political in my songs.
in whatever way it happens, Tartie. So we'll go into your tune. I mean, I guess when just quickly before we wrap it up, I want to play one of your latest single, I believe, The Imaginary.
Yeah.
Where's that one coming from?
So this one actually was written... so during, we had so many lockdowns, didn't we?
Yes.
But during the first ever lockdown, when things were still, the world was
March.
turning upside down, and we were thinking, oh my gosh, you know, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I did notice, I mean, little did I know how bad it would get, but I did notice that the media was so negative, and it was also kind of doom and gloom at that point. So I wrote this song, The Imaginary, because I thought, you know, I'm going to go into my imagination and imagine that things are better. And so then that became a skill that's got me through the last kind of 18 months.
That's all right. Absolutely. Whatever it took, really, because
Especially in Melbourne.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're in similar situations, but everybody had their own specific setups, you know. I mean, and that's why we got totally drained in the last, few weeks. It was just, you know, we weren't getting the result for the work, and that always is going to knock a lot of us on the head, you know.
I know, especially after what we kind of achieved together the previous year.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
But at this stage, this was written, early, like 2020, you know, in the first kind of, that first lockdown, which was the national lockdown and the worldwide lockdown, really.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you still there?
Yes.
Sorry. Well, on that note, we better play some music.
Yeah, time to play.
Yeah, no, Tartie, thanks for making yourself available, and hopefully I'll catch you around the scene in coming months as we all establish a live music network all over again, and you know, keep having live music and guests talking about what they're doing and what's coming up. So it's exciting. We just got to still be safe, obviously. But you know, we've got some oxygen now, which is very handy, and got to treat each other kindly and respect and minimise how many of us get hospitalised, pretty much.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Joe.
That's all right. Absolute pleasure. Like I said, it's the treat of this gig that I've got. There's meeting stories like this one, so it's wonderful. So here you are, folks. Here's Tartie, available on Bandcamp as well. Bandcamp Friday, folks, from 5 o'clock, I think it is. So 24 hours. If you like it, listen to it again and pay up. All right, Tartie, all the best. Here's your tune, The Imaginary.